I made $1 million in less than 45 days by leveraging this proven webinar formula, and in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use this secret sauce to build a webinar that converts like freaking clockwork. If you're watching this video, you're likely an entrepreneur who wants to leverage a webinar for your business, but at this point, you've probably come to the conclusion that there is a lot of misinformation out there. In this video, we're going to cut through all the noise and give you the actual statistics that make webinars convert like crazy. Because about 6 years ago, I was on the same exact journey you're on. I knew I wanted a webinar, I knew I needed to master webinars, but to be quite frank with you, I couldn't find a lot of information on webinars. I went down a rabbit hole, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars obsessing over the psychology of evergreen webinars, and then in 2020, I finally cracked the code. I went from literally a no one making $20,000 to $30,000 a month to making over $1 million in a single month, and I did that for 11 months straight by leveraging one webinar. The formula you're about to learn hasn't just worked for me. It's the same formula I've used to build webinars for Grant Cardone, for Tony Robbins, for Sean Balser, and some of the biggest names in internet marketing. So at this point, you're probably wondering why webinars and what makes them so powerful for internet marketers like me and you. Webinars are a preloading tool that leverages a variety of preloading psychology to where we can indoctrinate the masses at scale, get them to adopt the proper beliefs, inspire the correct thoughts, which lead to the proper actions, which then translate into emotion. And guess what that emotion translates into? A perception that we are the key from transcending them from their current state to their desired state. Now, if you look at Oprah Winfrey, for example, she has the same 24 hours in a day that you and I have. What's the difference between her and you? Well, she's evergreen, running 24/7, 365 to where she can make money in her sleep, and that is exactly what this webinar framework is going to do for you. Webinars allow individuals like you and I to build cult-like followings by really connecting with individuals and doing it at scale. Unlike a live event where you have to set up a venue every single time, you have to run paid traffic to it, a webinar you can record one time and you can run it 24/7, 365 on demand for pennies on the dollar. Webinars are also great for indoctrinating the masses and really setting it up to scale to when they do get to you, they're already warm and they're not at the cold traffic stage of your funnel. So imagine this. Imagine you're a subject matter expert in your single domain and you want to reach the masses. How do you do it? You go to a certain amount of events, you pitch a certain amount of people, or you build a massive sales team that's limited to 8 hours in a day, and they just pitch and pitch and pitch and pitch for you. Well, here's the bad news. No one is going to be able to pitch your product the way you pitch your product. You are the founder, you are the CEO, you're going to be able to convey the value the best, and if you understand frame control and the psychology behind it, you can build a webinar that literally sets you up as the prize and forces your ideal prospects to chase you. So there's a variety of different type of webinars that one could use. You could use a live webinar, you could use an evergreen webinar, you can use an automated webinar, or you can use a webinar that feeds a sales team. Now, out of all of these, if you're looking to really scale, a lot of individuals go with the automated offer because it is less work. And if you look back in the day, 2017, 2018, I helped build a webinar for an individual by the name of Sam Ovens, and he owns something called consulting.com. We automated that entire webinar and sold a $1,900 product off of it and did $33 million in a single year by selling information at scale. But since iOS 14 has came out and kind of disrupted the way the CPMs work in the Facebook algorithm world, you know, things have changed a little bit and running automated webinars are a little bit more difficult. So if you're starting out and you really want to sell high ticket, what I would encourage you to do is build a webinar, and on the close of the webinar, just sell a free consultation, and then all of those consultations will go to you, and then you can sell a $25,000 to $100,000 ticket. So here is the 6 pillars of what it takes to build a successful webinar. Pillar number 1, you are gonna need a webinar sales funnel. This sales funnel is gonna consist of a registration page, it is gonna consist of a pop-up squeeze page, it's then gonna consist of a broadcast room, and after that broadcast room, depending on if you're doing an automated funnel or a phone call funnel, there may be a variety of different steps after that. Once they click the call to action on the broadcast room, they're gonna either be diverted to a checkout page or they're gonna be diverted to a page to where they can fill out an application and schedule a call with you and your team. Pillar number 2 of a successful webinar is you're going to have a CRM, a customer relationship management software. And the reason why this is so critical is, as an internet marketer, data is everything. If you look behind the scenes of Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, these guys literally have data scientists that are going through their funnels and tracking every analytic in real time. And in order to do that, you gotta have clean data. So you need to get this CRM set up to where before you launch your webinar, you can track everything that's going on. You also need to be able to track what's going on in the watch time in the actual video as well, so you can see where people are progressing. The third pillar of a successful webinar is going to be SMS and email automation. Without marketing contingency plans, your funnel has buckets, and these buckets will leak. So if someone actually opts in for your funnel, you want automation to be able to continue to drive them through that entire customer experience. So the first thing you're gonna need is if someone registers for the webinar and doesn't show up. You're gonna need custom text message automation as well as email automation. You're also gonna need automation that is geared directly towards where they're at in the video. If they watch the introduction of your webinar and then they bounce, we need to retarget them, fire a pixel off, hit them with retargeting ads on Facebook, and also, since we got their email and phone number, we should retarget that as well. And last but not least, you're also gonna need something for everyone who reaches the end of the webinar that reminds them about the offer, that has an incentive-based close in that, to where we can gauge those people, bring them in, and get them to convert into paying customers. The fourth pillar of a successful webinar, the most critical component that everyone messes up on, is the actual webinar presentation. Now, let me ask you a question. What if it was possible to show your customers what it was like to be a customer before they were ever a customer? What if they could see the value, they could see the talent, they could see the expertise, and you could preload them in that narrative? Well, if you actually put a lot into a webinar, you're gonna get a lot out of it. If you try to half-ass it, you don't have psychology, and you don't follow a proven framework, it's not gonna matter what you do with ads, your funnel's not gonna matter, your presentation's gonna hold the entire thing back. So the last webinar that I built for myself, I spent 291 hours. It was 4 months of my life scripting this over and over. I spent $31,000 on PowerPoint presentation slides because the presentation was 360 slides. That is what made it work so well. So when it comes to your webinar, you're gonna need to follow this framework. The beginning of your webinar is gonna be an introduction. In that introduction, we wanna grab attention quick, we wanna show them authority, we wanna build expertise, and we wanna hook them so they can get into the actual content sections. The second part of your webinar that's critical is your content section. Now, when you are thinking about webinars, what I want you to think about is the introduction sells what? The next content section. That content section then sells the next, and the transition, and then the close sells the phone call. So each piece of this has to be mastered to where you can keep a narrative, keep them engaged, and keep them progressing through the entire presentation. In your content sections, you want to do these at a third grade reading level. You don't want to be too complex, you don't want to talk too much, you don't want to go into very complex things. It needs to be engaging to where they can actually comprehend it. Once you do that, you're going to set the tone by creating a vision with the actual audience. You're then going to go through a step-by-step framework, teaching them whatever you are going to reveal to them. And once you get done with them, you are going to get a macro commitment. How do we get a macro commitment? So listen, ladies and gentlemen, based off everything that I just taught you today, I know with complete certainty you can take this information and execute it on your own and get results that you previously thought weren't possible. But what if there was another option? What if there was an option you could take the same exact framework that Jordan Belfort and I used to build his webinar to 8 figures in literally 45 days, and you could deploy this into your business and get results that you previously thought weren't possible? How would that change your life? What would that do to you and your family? What would that do for your entire organization? That is how we get a macro commitment. We want to ask them for the commitment, and then we want to see them actually using it, for an example. So that's how you do a macro commitment in a content section. Once you get through the content sections, you're then gonna move into the transition. And the transition is gonna recap everything that you just taught in a 60-second recap with great detail. So how I did mine is I said, based off everything you guys see, could you see this helping you in your business? Yes. Could you see how this could be powerful to feed your sales team? Yes. And we go through and we recap it, and then we get yes momentum from the audience right before we go to the close. And the more macro commitments and micro commitments that we can get them to keep saying yes through that presentation, the higher the probability that they will close. The last part of the presentation is the most critical part. Now, this part of the presentation should be well done. And when I build my webinars, I actually start at the close and work my way back because I want to dial in the close before I spend any time screwing around with the actual offer. So your close should be probably 20 to 30 minutes long. You want to give a tagline of whatever your offer is. For example, if you are selling an information product, you want to tagline that information product and put all the benefits right there in front of them. Once you blow through the benefits and you get that done and you actually outline the offer in great detail, you then want to transition into a bonus stack. Now, Russell Brunson at ClickFunnels has been super famous about doing this for years and years. And what it's all about is it's about setting up the perception and the perceived value of whatever you're selling in a format that is dropped down. So what you want to do is you want to reveal the price, and then you want to drop it, drop it, drop it, and drop it all the way down to your discounted fee. Now, the good news is majority of internet marketers just inflate these numbers anyways, but that is also how you build a super powerful close. Once you roll through that, you're then gonna get a commitment from the audience. And how I did it in my webinar is I said, listen, this is not for everyone. This is for X amount of people and a certain type of people. And I disqualified everyone else because I didn't want them booking calls with our sales team. So what I would encourage you to do is make sure when you're building your actual close that you think about every element of it. And you think about setting it up to attract the right people in. The fifth pillar of every successful webinar is once you get your webinar built, you've got your funnel, you've got your automations, you've got your CRM dialed, the entire machine is ready to rock and roll. Guess what the bad news is? Unless you got millions of followers like the people in this room, you're never gonna be able to reach these people at scale. So what you're gonna have to do is you need attention. Now, the only way to get attention is to build an organic following on your own, which could take years and tons of experience to do it, or you can borrow that attention with something called ads. Now, there's a lot of different ways to scale very quick, but in my world, paid traffic has always been the easiest way, and it's very scalable. So once you get your webinar done, you're gonna need traffic. You can go to Facebook ads. This is where I would recommend majority of people to start for an actual webinar. There's been dozens of 8- and 9-figure webinars built just off of Facebook ads alone, and that's what I recommend everyone start with. The second thing you can do is YouTube ads. YouTube ads are a little bit different than they used to be. Targeting parameters have changed a little bit, but with that being said, they are still possible to promote a webinar with them. And if you look back 2015 in the Ty Lopez days, when he launched his, he literally went to $60 million a year just off of YouTube ads alone. So it is still possible to do, and he was running a VSL and a webinar as well. The next thing that you can do is partner with other people, and this is called JV launches, joint venture launches. And typically what that looks like is you have a presentation and an offer, you approach someone and say, listen, I will give you 40% of sales on all the traffic that you bring to my webinar, and then they will promote their email list promoting your webinar. And then the last step, the final step of really getting a result out of it is trying some different stuff with sabotaging other people's traffic and trying to promote them to yours through Google search. So if someone is searching your competitor, someone is searching how to build funnels online, what I used to do is I would run all of my done for you Luxvoni offers, and I would rank on the #1 of Google for every keyword term around sales funnels. Once I got below that, I would have a different brand name, and it would be a free training about sales funnels. And then what ended up happening is I would own the 3 spots of Google every single time, no matter what you searched. The 6th pillar to a successful webinar is, unfortunately, like everyone teaches it, there is not a set it and forget it model. It doesn't exist. Great internet marketing requires constant optimization. And what I mean by optimization is every piece of your funnel can always be optimized for better performance. So you need to be tracking your click-through rate. You need to be tracking your opt-in rate. You need to be tracking how many people start your webinar, how many people fall off of your webinar, and how many people make it to the end of your webinar. You also need to track, if you're scheduling phone calls, what those phone calls are going to cost, what the show up rate on those calls are going to be. what the average cost to acquire a customer at scale is, and then the most important number is what is your ROAS, your return on ad spend. Now, once you get these frameworks dialed, you can look at them and they provide a very linear picture. And instead of spending more money on ads, guess what you can do? For example, if your opt-in rate on your webinar funnel is only 12%, I can literally go in and tweak those page and do A/B split test, get it to 20%, and now I just generated literally 100% more opt-ins on the same ad spend without ever increasing it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in today's video, we have talked about the 6 pillars of a successful webinar. We've talked about the foundations, why they're so important, and why you are leaving $1 million on the table by not leveraging a webinar in your business. All right, now if you could take this information and you could go out on your own and execute it on your own, you would get results that you previously thought weren't even possible. And if that was your only option, it would be a very worthy option to pursue. But what if there was another option? An option that allowed you to stack the deck in your favor and make the success of your webinar inevitable by leveraging my years of experience in building these webinars for some of the biggest names in internet marketing. If I could do these things for you, would you feel like you could do something different and get results that you previously thought weren't possible? Of course you would. So here's what I want you to do next. I want you to text 646-901-4973. Text that number and we're gonna send you over some packages of different ways that we can help you. Now, this is a new test group. We're not gonna do it again. I'm looking for 100 people that I can partner with over the next year and set their businesses up to succeed by partnering with them on webinars. So if that sounds like you're willing to put skin in the game, you don't have a bunch of limiting beliefs, listen, I'm an internet marketer, I'm not a clinical psychologist. So this is only for people who are committed and willing to scale. If that's you, click the link below or text 646-901-4973. If you got value from this video, smash that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and if you have any questions about webinars, I'm gonna answer every single one of them personally, so just drop your comments directly below this video. Be great, enjoy the day, and remember, you're just one webinar away.